Kudos to Chris for chasing that. It's been a bane of my existence and Eli's for a while.
Yeah, I should have given a shout out earlier, but it's my shout out now.
Cool. I can demo. With the caveat that I have never merged 5 branches together to pull this off, so I'm not sure how it's going to go. But I just slammed together a bunch of development work, so it'll be fun. So drafts is approaching GA real quickly now, and we're sort of doing some final polish passes as well as nailing down some interaction behaviors that we wanted to solve for. Real quickly, we've just tweaked a few of the where a few things are. Most of this is not, or some of this is not merged quite yet. So you can actually see your list of archived drafts over here now. We moved it down here. I also am playing with moving the version history up into here, so we don't really keep it hanging around. We don't need to look at it that much. And
what are those numbers on the right? The 140, the 1, the 6. What are those?
What's that?
What are the numbers on the right of the version history?
Number of changes in this draft. So we need to do some polish, but yeah, it sort of gives a sense of scale of that particular change. So, and then we did some design changes in sort of how we treat this bar up here when you're looking at a previous version, as well as a draft. Close this guy. So old drafts now have this other color just to kind of tell them apart. We also adjusted a little bit just how this looks and options up here. And if I go ahead and edit a draft, you'll see that we actually see our current draft in here. When I'm in here, if I come out of here, I'll still see it parked up there and kind of jump around more easily. So that's sort of the UX polish. One other little piece was, I'm going to actually jump to this guy. The workbook changes look a little different now. So before we would put the date or the time of the change, and now we're putting what changed up on top, but move the date below. So just polishing it a little bit to look a little different. So that's one set of changes. So then one of the things we wanted to do is we see people get themselves in trouble a lot today by following, let's say, old links. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of hacking to make this work because this version of the code really wants to stop me from getting myself in trouble, but I can do it, I believe. If I grab one of these links, open another window here, and I'm going to just take some chunk off. Oops, that's not going to work. Gosh, it's so good at resisting me. Here, go to here. I kind of have to hack my main here because it's actually hard to get to these now. But let's say I had an old tab or an old link to an old version of this document. If I jump in here, you'll notice it didn't actually take me to that view of it. It actually automatically took me to the latest version. So if I follow an old link, it's going to slam me forward every time. So you can't get into old versions unless you explicitly have this drawer open. Then it'll let you look at that. So it's kind of a safety feature to keep people from looking at old versions without knowing. It should have thrown a toast telling me, hey, you're on old version. I pulled you forward. That was because, and with drafts, it's a little better behaved. Use be able to do this. Wow, I have way too much stuff open. Sorry. So with drafts, this will do the same thing, basically, where it'll keep things stable. So that's one piece. The other piece that goes on here is that historically, with drafts, we've had an issue, and I am struggling to find a good example of this because we're doing things right now. If I have an old copy of this, okay, I have to just go beat myself up. So hold on a second here. I'm going to grab this guy. And then I go over here. And I'm going to make a change to it. Like, we'll just do this. And we could go this way. So now I've made a change. If we go look at history, you can see, then we can see the chart type got changed. If I take that copy of the link I had before and jump to it, it's going to say right up here, you're an old version. I pulled you forward. So it's much harder to end up following a link. What you'll also see is if I happen to have 2 tabs open, or like some of our fun customers, 5 tabs of the same workbook, and I change it. So usually going to be hidden from you. I do this and I change it. Notice this is actually going to pull itself forward automatically. So
Woohoo.
each other down. And then background changes happen. So if I go down here and say everyone is watching, we'll notice that actually updated in the background. So we actually keep the document the same across tabs and across users. So if somebody else elsewhere on the planet was attached, they would also get pulled forward automatically. So that's sort of the fundamental change. The other piece we did, or that's in here, is if I'm looking at old version, I try to make a change, we'll actually notice that you tried to make a change and stop you and make you go to the latest version before you start making your changes. So a lot of things to prevent people from like accidentally overwriting each other and keeping in sync and all kinds of things. So the automatic pull forward stuff is going to be behind a feature flag for a little bit because it's got a couple of new pieces to it that I don't exactly know how they're going to scale. And I want to see them. I want to scale them up slowly, not all at once. But the overwriting prevention stuff is almost ready to ship, as well as some of the UI updates. So that should all be in early next week. So yeah, I think that's it for drafts on my side.
Is there an indicator that someone's editing the workbook while you're looking at it? Because I could imagine it changing out from underneath you while you're looking at it would be pretty disruptive.
So there is not yet, but there will be once we bring that real time changing on. It's actually, I have the data. Just to keep the scope small, we're not doing it yet, but we want to do a presence type behavior like what Google Docs does, where you can see Jared's here or Luke is here in 2 other tabs. So yes, I know all that. I'm just not showing it yet because we want to kind of bring it in slowly. But yeah, we'll definitely, the presence is kind of critical because now you have this dynamic document. You kind of want to know that you're going to get dragged forward if somebody else is there. So that's something we'll probably follow with pretty quickly. Main thing there is that, again, while I don't have huge scalability concerns, I would like to bring it in slowly so we don't like blow out something funky. Under the hood, what I'm doing is it's using a Redis key for each document and doing pub sub to the Redis key that's being rebroadcast via server sent events. So basically, when you open a document up, you get subscribed to events for that document. And if the document changes, we update a Redis key and then publish that. We have to do the Redis key because we have multiple remix servers and we need to be able to share the state across those servers. So those 2 moving parts, while not inherently scary, are new scaling directions for us that we need to kind of like ease ourselves into. And the other thing you may have seen is there's some new notification tricks we're doing. So I did land this week stuff so you can now push toasts from inside the browser. So before you could only push toasts server side, you can now push them server or client side, and you can push them to different locations and other stuff. If you want to use that in your stuff, let me know and I can walk you through it because I have not particularly docked it much yet. I'm just using it for myself, but yeah, done a bunch of work around the toast infrastructure to make that more elegant. A later goal is actually to hook it to the same tech I'm using, the same infrastructure I'm using for document subscriptions, so I can actually push you toasts from the server dynamically. So we could do things like your delivery just failed and actually push that to you all your tabs, rather than just sending you an email if you're logged in, things like that. So yeah.
Quick question.
Is there a way to?
No,
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was actually curious what it looks like. Like you had the 2 tabs open with like a workbook and a workbook. What does it look like if you have the workbook and a dashboard open and you're making changes to the workbook?
You would catch me on that. So we're not currently pulling dashboards forward. That's a piece of work we're going to do real shortly. Basically, dashboards will do the same thing. So it will be smart enough to know if the change matters or not. Basically, generally speaking, changes in dashboards don't matter to workbooks, but changes in workbooks matter to dashboards, if that makes sense. Although if it was like a hidden tab, it might not matter. So little bit of work to do there. For now, we're probably going to pretty aggressively just keep pushing you forward when we see a change on either side. I want to get to the place where we get more nuanced and don't like just reload your page on you when you are hanging out. So yeah, lots to kind of learn there. We're not great about versioning dashboards, or we don't have a particularly static idea of a dashboard version, so that's something I need to work on. And to be frank, less critical for draft stuff, so we'll pick that up a little bit later. So yeah.
If you're viewing the published version and somebody just publishes, do we pull for that you get updated, or is that?
I'm not doing it yet, mainly because I was dealing with collision overwriting, but it would be really trivial to implement that. So what it will do is like, okay, so I'm taking way too much time. There's two things that we do get out of it. There's a cycle that the browser does where when you load the page, I will check if you're looking at an old version of pull you forward. If you are using Chrome, which 92% of our users are, and your tab goes idle. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but like sometimes you'll see a tab, a little like dotted circle. When tabs go idle, they will automatically reload themselves when you open them back up, which means they'll get pulled forward. So we should see a lot less cases of people looking at an old copy of a dashboard or a document because the thing can kind of self-refresh. Workbook, dashboard, that part should be pretty easy to pull in, and that'll help people not looking at like old stuff quite as often. So yeah,